Okay, so this is Dark Brew from the forums off his game on Magic Online, and I've got Team Italia here, and I'm just going to go over a couple of the card choices that I made quickly before I show you some gameplay. First, I have 24 lands. Since I am running 3 4-drops, 2 swords, and I do run a bunch of 4-drops out of the board, including a Batter Skull at 5. So I did feel like 23 was a bit light on land at times. Obviously you have Dark Confidant to draw you into land as well, but it certainly seems so far like 24 has been a bit better number. And especially, flashing back Layering Souls, the same turn you play it's good. Playing an Equipping Sword on the same turn is good, so you really want 5 lands, I'd say, ideally. No more, no less, in the mid-game. As far as the lands go, I have just 1 Plains and Swamp for Blood Moon, and 1 Tech Edge, as well as 2 Lavaclar Reaches. They do come into play, not that often. It's not a great mainland, but it's pumpable. If you ever do get flooded, you can get it up to, I've got up to 8 power before, so it's not worthless, and it's definitely necessary as a 2-of. Blackleaf Cliffs, again, just to prevent some damage. You could probably go with 3, depending on your build, and run less fetches, but obviously the fetches are pretty good with Deathrite Shaman and Lavamancer. Thoughtseize, run at least 2 Thougeize main deck, possibly even a 3-1 split. The deck hurts itself quite a bit. I did cut a Confidant just recently, just going to try it out with an extra Sculler, which again is really just better in the control combo matchups. And you also have both of the swords, which are also quite good in the creature matchups. Grind a lot of value out with swords, Lingering Souls, Liliana, Grim Lavamancer. You have the best removal spell in the format. You have Bolt. You've got Ranger. Ranger, not all the deck lists I've seen play this. Some play, main deck Ajani, main deck Elspeth as the 2 4-drops. I like having Ranger. You cast this endgame when you're both at 1 or 2 cards. You get 2 Deathrite Shaman or a Deathrite Shaman and a Lavamancer, and you just go to town. It's basically like a 5 power guy, and it's basically like a 3-2 draw 2, and neither of those are lands, so it's probably better than a draw 2 towards the end game, even since you know what you're getting. Yeah, so that's the mana base. Again, I've overgrown Tomb and Stomping Ground for just for Deathrite Shaman activation, which does come into play, and for Hate against something like Living End, which is kind of a tough matchup as well. Sideboard, really important for this deck. Batter Skull, any creature matchup, Jund, anything that's attacking on the ground, it's pretty important. Even if they kill it, you can just equip it to a Lingering Souls token, and it gets there. Can't think of many creature-based matchups I've lost where I've played the Batter Skull and not just died to a Bolt, the next turn. Like, it's just essential for that matchup as a 1-of. Slaughter games, for things like Tron, Twin, anything like that. With a discard spell, you're going to know against a Tron or a Twin what you need to get a lot of the times, so I think it's fine there as a 1-of. You'll know to get, Karn or Worm Coil or whatever. Sowing Salt, obviously for Tron. There's other matchups it's good in as well, like the Amulet of Vigor deck, which I have played myself. Pretty much destroys that deck. Anything that puts, a ton of non-basics out there could be worth coming in against. Ajani, I switched him to the sideboard, did have him in the main deck, might switch him back to the main deck for maybe a Sculler. Tough to say. He's great at times. You must destroy him. You must kill him, or or he's got Armageddon them, so that's something to keep in mind. Mirren Crusader, naturally coming in against Jund. The Nykthos green deck, can't deal with it. You know, there's quite a few decks, you know, just the Rock, Death Cloud, anything really. Black and green, and he's quite good with Elspeth. I actually won a game the other day where I pumped him to 5/5 Flyer with double strike, 10 points of damage with a top deck Elspeth, so that's pretty strong as well. Synergy. Rakdos Charm, great in a ton of matchups. I bring it in against Affinity, bring it in against, you know, Living End, against Snapcaster decks sometimes, it depends. Against Splinter Twin, you definitely want it, because if your life total is higher than theirs, and they're using Deceiver Exarch, and they go for the kill without a Dispel or something, you'll just kill them in response to their attack. With that mode, you know, it's nice to just have more artifact hate, so it's, you know, worth bringing against Tron or Affinity just for those, just for, you know, 2 mana destroy target artifact is quite fine in those matchups. Thalia, again, control decks, combo decks. Bring it in, slows them down significantly. I've liked it quite a bit, so yeah. Ancient Grudge, obviously, mostly there for Affinity, also good against Tron, you know. So you've got a solid 1, 2, 3, 4 great cards against Affinity, and then you also have Hide and Seek, which is great against Affinity, one of the few things we have against Boggles. At the very least, this allows you to get rid of the Daybreak Coronet that they'll have. Yeah, just a ton of cards essentially against Affinity. I've done quite well against Affinity, probably 3 or 4 and 1. My 2 mans so far against Affinity. Grindy matchups, Lingering Souls is good. All these artifact destructions are good. You can really just kill all of their threats and just leave them with a couple Ornithopters. And also, Seek lets you get rid of single combo pieces from combo decks, or from, let's say, Tron, and just get rid of their Emrakul. Haven't run into Tron that much, but if I did, this is certainly a card that's worth having. Otherwise, it may be the first cut. I've considered wanting some Bonfire of the Damned. That card seems really strong in a lot of situations, even just as a one-sided 5-mana Pyroclasm that deals 2 as well. There's been a ton of times that would have won me the game. I also don't really have, you know, a ton of ways to deal with Hexproof, right? So, outside of Liliana, something like a Geist of St. Traft is quite problematic for this deck if you don't get it with one of these. But very stable deck list. Again, I'm going for a bit of grindier version. Definitely might want the 4th Confidant, but choosing not to run with that right now. So in the next video we'll have either some 2-man action, or I'll hit up the practice room, one of the two. I tend to prefer, you know, the actual 2-man, since I get deck lists that are, you know, more common. The practice room, you'll get a lot of you know, a lot of stuff you haven't seen before, where the sideboard isn't really tuned for, right? Like Mill. When I'm against Mill, I have nothing really to bring in that's relevant outside of maybe Rakdos Charm, Thalia. So really, this is a meta call. These cards. I want to focus on those tier 1 decks, and I want to beat those tier 1 decks, and just rely on the quality here for the other ones. Okay, so I'll be back with some videos.